let's talk about our little announcement because it concerns both of us. And the one thing I just want to point out to everybody is that, as I said, Brent and I go back a long time to that NBC series, but we've remained collaborators and friends forever since. Kind of like going to war to make a TV series about an alien invasion. You sort of had to. We were experiencers of something for sure. And here's the deal. We were at that time, when this was airing on NBC, we were exposed to what appeared to be an approach from the government about a potential deal.
Well, literally, someone came out of the shadows at our premiere party and proposed that we work with the Office of Naval Intelligence to help with slow drip disclosure. And in exchange for working with them, we would be essentially read in and shown all of the secrets, and we would then figure out how to weave them into our TV series. That's what they put on the table.
They did indeed. Now, we've been talking about this in general terms for years, not in detail, but that's about to change. What happened is I started to write a book because I sort of felt like, it's that time where I should sort of lay the record out. And I showed you the proposal for it. And you said, this is fine, but we could make a podcast out of this thing. And we ended up setting up a deal to make a podcast about our experiences making that series, the idea that we were approached about a deal, and other people who might have been approached about a deal. And I guess our big announcement is this. Brent and I are going to be doing a 36-episode podcast for iHeart Podcasts. It'll start at the early part of 26. And so I'm kind of excited about it.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride already. We've started to record some episodes, and I think we have a really cool plan. We're going to take you on a wild ride. And as Bryce was saying, this all kind of began around Dark Skies, but it's actually carried through and had ripple effects for the last couple decades up until even just recently. And, that also includes stories and experiences that preceded Dark Skies. So there's a lot of material here, hence 36 episodes. And we also have a really interesting format that we're going to be using Hollywood movies and TV shows, which, we are Hollywood insiders, as it were, to look at and examine the UFO phenomenon and the history of, or the evolving narrative of ufology. And use each kind of episode, take a movie or a TV show and use that as a portal in to also talk about our own experiences. So it's going to be very different than anything that's out there. It's going to be, both personal and philosophical and crazy, because some of the stuff that happened to us is just completely unexplainable.
The title of the new podcast is Sound, Light, and Frequency. Sound, light, and frequency is not something that comes initially to you, although you could think of it as, if you're going to make a movie or a television series or even a podcast, you're involved with sound, light, and frequency. But we don't want to spoil our own coming podcast, but we should give you a little hint about why it's called Sound, Light, and Frequency. I'll let you run with that one.
Well, I don't want to give too much away, but suffice to say that the person that came to make the deal proposal to us mentioned in the course of that first meeting that sound, light, and frequency were the secrets of the universe, and proceeded to give us something to kind of elucidate that. And, for years, we kept being fixated on, what does that mean, sound, light, and frequency? And I think over the years, certain things have come into focus. And we've done some analysis on the artifact that we were given. And I think, that's all going to be, a running subplot in the 36 episodes. So excited to dive in. And I think even what we're about to do here with, kind of going in and analyzing and looking at this trailer is just a little preview. It's a little taste of some of the kind of the approach we're going to take with not so much detail as we are here to sound, light, and frequency. And so, like I said, it's really a very different take on ufology and the phenomenon than I believe is out there right now.
I can't wait. And I know we need to get into the Disclosure Day trailer, which we're about to do. But one of the things that I think is interesting is over the years, I've been guests on other people's podcasts. And of course, I did Need to Know for years with Ross Coulthard, and now I'm doing it with Richard Dolan. And people always say, well, you're a Hollywood guy. What's going on with Hollywood and UFOs? And then the conversation is very short and barely an hour, if ever. I've been on Coast to Coast, and it's been a short little discussion. Well, folks, we've got 36 hours we're going to fill. There's a lot we're going to be talking about, and we have been in the research mode. Well, I like to say we've been in the research mode for a quarter of a century, but
yeah.
we're in a serious research mode right now where we're rewatching all these films. We are doing, we're calling people up and asking them questions, and we're sort of building our database and all that. So we are going to be doing a show called Sound, Light, and Frequency. And Brent, I'm so happy to have your partnership on that. And I really think we might break some new ground with it. And for those of you thinking about it, you'll be able to find it where all podcasts are sometime in the early part of 26. It is being produced by iHeart Podcasts, and my company Stellar Productions is one of the production company, or is the production company on it. We've got 36 episodes, and we just wanted to give you guys a little taste if you're listening or watching us. We do a first episode about that party crasher that Brent was talking about earlier in the show. But our second episode is actually called Mr. Close Encounters, and of course is about the man of the hour, Steven Spielberg. So we prepared just a little clip where we pulled some of the discussion that comes from that second episode where we're talking about Spielberg and all of the stuff. And so we're going to play that now, and we'll come back and say goodbye. So let's go to that. This year, I got to have lunch at Jacques Vallée's apartment, of all things. And
I'm so envious.
It was such a cool thing. I mean, to think, well, first of all, his lovely wife made lunch for us. I mean, that was pretty cool. But apropos of Close Encounters, because it's hard not to talk to him about it, what everyone needs to understand is there is a character in Close Encounters, the French scientist Lacombe. And Lacombe is played by the great French director Francois Truffaut.
Played very well, by the way.
Played incredibly well. He grounds it. I think that's Spielberg's, crowning accomplishment in casting.
Yeah.
He had to screw up his courage to ask him, and he said yes. And he came and said, I don't need to be a director here. I'm an actor. And he acted the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Did a great job. But that character was certainly inspired by Jacques Vallée. So people have asked Jacques about this all the time. So, I'm not going to go to his house and not ask him. So I did say, what's your take on being portrayed in film? And I bet that was kind of cool. And of course, he's got that smile. And of course, it was cool. He loved it. Yeah. But the thing that he said and has said consistently is the ending is a little too positive for him based on the evidence that he has seen in his ongoing investigations. He's not saying that it's completely wrong. He's just saying there's a darker side to what he has seen in the people and the witnesses he's talked to. And I thought that was kind of interesting. It also mirrors something that the great UFO researcher Stanton Friedman said. Stanton also felt that. It's hard not to see Close Encounters of the Third Kind and say, what a great freaking movie this is. It's not a documentary. Mm-hmm. It's a movie.
Right.
And so Stanton felt very much like Jacques Vallée, which is, it's great ending, it's fun, but there's another side to all this.
Well, speaking of another side to all of this, and going back to this concept of firsts, I think this is the other aspect of Close Encounters we want to talk about outside the movie, everything surrounding the movie. So in the topic of firsts, I want to bring up a friend and a colleague who you, of course, know because we both worked with them as the director on our Dark Skies pilot, our 2-hour pilot. That's Tobe Hooper. Just to give a little context here, I was friends with Tobe because we were working on an independent movie, developing it a couple years prior. And when we were looking for directors for the Dark Skies pilot, we hit on Tobe and everyone got excited about Tobe. Of course, Tobe had done, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Poltergeist, where he worked with Steven Spielberg. And apparently he and Steven were very good friends. So here's a very interesting story that goes back to when we were scouting locations for the Dark Skies pilot. We were up in the Newhall Ranch area, which is north of Los Angeles up in the hills. And we were looking for an area where we could shoot our crop circle sequence. We had in the Dark Skies pilot, there's a big crop circle, right, that is the main character finds and has a whole interesting experience with. And so at the end of the day, after we had scouted this whole area, the small production group went down to like kind of a roadhouse restaurant. And because I had previously been friends with Tobe, I sat aside with him while everyone else was talking about logistics and whatnot. And he had told me before that he and Steven were really good friends, but they were very competitive, right? Especially when it came to film. And I had said to him over dinner, you're going to finally beat Steven in something. You're going to be the first one to put a crop circle on film, because despite everything Steven had done up until that point, he had not done that. And Tobe kind of chuckled and said, yeah, I mean, but I'll never be ahead of Steven in this category. And I was like,
well, there's Tobe Hooper talking again. And by the way, there is more to that Tobe Hooper story. Not to be a big tease, but we don't want to spoil our own new show. So we will be telling you that story about Tobe Hooper, who was a great guy. I mean, I was really proud to get to know him. And Brent, you knew him ahead of time. And we'll be telling you a lot more about, I mean, Spielberg, frankly, because of his importance in this whole world of showbiz, UFOs, and secrecy, he's kind of a continuing character in our series.
Yes. Yeah. He is a recurring character because we examine a lot of the movies that he either made or was involved in, movies and TV shows.
The title of the new podcast is Sound, Light, and Frequency.